Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Nicholas Corcel and you're watching The Literary Nomad. Today we are going to talk about the Netflix adaptation of Gabriel García Márquez's Cien años de soledad, or 100 Years of Solitude. Earlier this month, or I guess last month at the time of watching this, after many delays in the release of the Netflix show, Cien años finally came out, and I recently sat down and watched the entire first part of the series, which is all that's available currently, in about 2 or 3 days. Now, this series, even being made, has caused quite a bit of controversy because Gabriel García Márquez never wanted to sell the rights to the series. He never wanted it to actually get made into a film or television adaptation. Now, of course, as we all know, he recently passed away, and his grandson sold the rights to the show, or to the book, a few years later. This caused a lot of people to push back against this show coming out, this show being made. A lot of them citing that Márquez himself would not have approved. And now, while that is undeniably true that he was resistant to an adaptation, I do believe that he would have enjoyed this adaptation, and I believe that he would have been happy with the end result. And I say this for a few reasons. Primarily, one of his biggest issues was that he did not believe that the story could be a movie. And I think that that's true. I think this series proves that that's true. This book, and this is the illustrated version, and look, it's not a very thick book. I think it's like 450 or 500 pages, the original first edition. So it's not a crazy long book, but so much happens in it. And you can't put all that into just a 2-hour movie. So by making it into a Netflix show, and I think that this idea of how television can be released or how books can be adapted, shifting in the streaming era to where you can make a 18, 19, 20 hour long cumulative story told on screen. Whereas in the past, when Márquez would have been getting these offers from Hollywood, they would have been trying to condense it all into 2 hours. So I think stretching it out really did help make the story possible. I mean, I think it's 8 episodes. It was 8 or 10 episodes, each one about an hour long, and we only are about halfway through the book. We still have a whole other part coming in a year or so. And so by stretching out, that takes the biggest problem, which is just the time constraint. Secondly, he wanted the book to be adapted in Spanish. He did not want it to be an English language series, which I believe would have been a much more difficult thing to pull off in the past, even 10 years ago, 20, 30, 40 especially, where the audience in the English-speaking world was not willing to watch foreign language films at a large, like, mainstream scale. I think with foreign films and shows becoming so popular, when you think about like La Casa de Papel and Squid Games, for example, these things being huge and people being okay and comfortable hearing other language and reading the subtitles or the dubs has really helped pave the way for this to be adapted in a very Colombian way, with a lot of Colombian actors. A lot of it was filmed in Colombia, and being in that Spanish that was so important to Márquez. One of the biggest notes that I had, or one of the biggest takeaways perhaps that I had while watching this, was the fact that it felt very literary from start to finish. This show wanders, it takes its time, it explores weird side quests and side characters in an incredible detail, which is very uncommon. And I feel like this would lead a lot of people who are more interested in maybe mainstream films, or who are cinema first fans rather than literature fans, who are watching the movie because of that. I think that might make people feel a little bit dissatisfied. But for me, that was probably the biggest pro of the film, because it felt like you were watching a book, which is pretty rare, I would say, when you're watching a film or a show, is that it felt like, on like a physical level, it felt like you were reading while you were watching. With the narration being such an important part of the story, with the way that we had the time, and again, this goes back to that extended format of Netflix. We were able to take our time and like really chew on the ideas that were being played out in front of us. We have the incest scenes in the beginning, we have the political, the very drawn out political times towards the end, we have the magical realism tangents. All of these things were given the time to think about. And so, like, it's like when you're reading the book, you might read a 50-page section and then you spend a couple days thinking about it. this show allows you to do the same thing, with each episode or each couple episodes being a comprehensive deconstruction of some of the more major and important themes of the story. In the most literal sense of the phrasing, nothing really feels like it has a point, but rather it's a collection of ideas and musings that you can think about and help shift and alter your thinking and your perspective on the world. So in essence, when somebody says, what is Cien años? What is this about? It's difficult, right? Because it's a multi-generational familial story talking about what it means to be a family, talking about the nuclear family, the extended family, those relationships, the idea of falling in love, falling out of love, forbidden love in the sense of like incest and all of these things that we would view as incredibly atypical, magical realism, which has since become an absolute cornerstone of Latin American literature and films. The political engagement of polarizing times. We see the conservative party take over. We see the liberals fight back. We see the revolutions. We see one man, Aureliano Buendia, where he goes from just a guy who is super apolitical to being a leader of the Partido Liberal, and where he becomes this heroic kind of figure in the eyes of like the working class across Colombia. Other things that I feel like really make this work and make this film and show worth watching, in the sense that I think that you should read it, but I think you also should watch. It's just that every shot and every scene feels like you're watching a painting. You feel like you are there in Colombia, and it's breathtaking. It's very beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful TV shows that I've seen in many, many years. Further, we get this comprehensive breakdown, like I said earlier, of this family, this multi-generation. The story spans 100 years, and they're just trying to break free of this curse that they have, and we'll talk about that more in part 2 when it comes out. But they're trying to break free of the curse and live a long, happy, and full life, like a life where they're free, a life where they're not constricted by their families, the curse, all of these things, right? And so to do this, they do what many people have done in the Americas. And in a sense, this is a story of the Americas, where they travel by foot or whatever they have available to them. These guys, it's just their foot, it's just their feet. They have a few horses and things like that, but they travel over this mountain. They have no idea what's on the other side, but they know that the important thing is that what they are leaving. The important thing is that they're leaving confines to go find something else. They don't know what that something else is, but they know that just the idea that they're leaving here is worth whatever that there might be. And there ends up being a swamp that ends up growing and making into Macondo. But it is this idea that leaving is the important thing, not finding, which I think is really key and something that I thought about a lot while watching the show. Additionally, one of the strongest points of this, and I think that this is because Marquez is such a strong writer, is the intense and rich symbolism. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through every aspect of symbolism. That could be its own video and just frankly a waste of time. But I really want to talk quickly about the symbolism of Melquiades, who I believe to be a stand-in for God, who brings wisdom and technology and all forms of advancement and prosperity to the town of Macondo. And as far as things that I didn't like about the show, I don't really think that there are anything that I didn't like that's specific to the show. I mean, the death of Jose Acardio I didn't enjoy, and Aramanta's rejection of Pietro Crespi, and then weirdly how she rejected her nephew, brother, whatever you want to call him, after kind of courting him and encouraging it was weird. The way that she would like kind of incite violence wherever she went, because she would like act interested and then not be. But I don't know if you can really call that a criticism of the show. I think any plot point that is taken from the book, I don't know if you can criticize the show for that, because it's not their choice, right? They were being faithful adapters, and yeah, what can you do? I think that that's a awkward part of the book, but I don't know. Maybe you guys have a better understanding of what all of that meant, specifically who killed Jose Acardio. I saw one that was interesting on Reddit where people were talking about how maybe lightning got him, or other people argued that, maybe the point is that there is no point, and that it just needs to be mysterious and leave it at that. The Automata thing is the one that I'm more curious about. So if any of you guys have read more or have any secondary sources, reviews or something, right, that could shed some more light on Automata's character, I would greatly appreciate that, because that was pretty confusing to me and something that I've spent a lot of time thinking of. All right, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Nicholas García, and this was The Literary Nomad. I will see you in the next video.